So we had a little few technical issues, Ryan, but do you know what I mean? We're actually here now, right?
Yeah, there we go. We're all good to go.
We absolutely are, mate. Do you know what I mean? We're talking about obviously Northern Championship Wrestling. I've got to ask though, I mean, how the hell do you get street brawls like we are people like calling the cops?
Oh, well, to be fair, a funny story for the last one we had, which was Tim Strange and Alton Thorne. Literally 5 minutes after we finished filming, everybody's gone back inside. Police dog car shows up. So I go kind of running up to be like, oh, uh-oh, what's happened? And he was like, is everything okay? And I said, yeah, how come? He was like, oh, someone's made a call. They thought it sounded like a security guard was having the life kicked out of him. So we had to come and check. And I was like, oh, no, we run a professional wrestling school in company and we were just filming a promotional thing for it. They were like, yeah, no worries. They were probably like, no paperwork. But that was like the closest. I think the benefit is it is private property that we get to film on. So it's like a closed set. So I think it would be different if we did it out in like the public street.
Yeah, I can just imagine like people going, what the hell is going on? But you know what, mate? We'll talk about all that stuff. This is obviously live, so if people want to get involved, send some questions. We'll put them to Ryan and stuff like that. Enough rambling on. Let's get into the intro. Now, of course, Ryan, we're on Thursday, mate. How's your week been?
Yeah, it's not too bad. Not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, usual stuff, work and all that. Anything exciting, or is you just preparing, obviously, for the show on the 21st?
Just preparing for the show on the 21st, man. Just busy, making sure we're getting everything done. And not just done, but done right. But yeah, it's a little bit stressful times, but that's kind of what you accept when you go into doing this stuff.
Yeah, and do you actually get wind down time? Do you know what I mean? Do you get a chance to chill after obviously doing all this?
No. I think I run a gym, and then obviously we've got Madhouse, which is the pro wrestling gym inside that gym. And then with NCW on top of that, it's just kind of constantly going. I'm one of those people where I kind of find it hard to turn my brain off. So like, you know, when you're dozing off to sleep and all of a sudden you're like, I've got an idea, or, oh, I've thought of a matchup, or, oh, what if we did this? So it's kind of like constantly going.
I suppose it keeps you busy though, right?
Oh yeah, it's better to be busy than kind of sat in your ass doing nothing. So can't complain.
There you go. So yeah, mate, we're talking obviously about Northern Championship Wrestling. Let's obviously start at the beginning, mate. I mean, how did the whole idea come about?
So the idea for NCW kind of came about from one, just having loved wrestling since I was a kid. I was born 1990. So I came up kind of like with the Attitude Era going into like the Aggression Era, which, you know, I think a lot of people will agree is probably two of the best eras of wrestling that we had. So like growing up, seeing that, got to go see WWE when I was a kid, seeing a couple of like smaller local shows as well. And then just having like a bit of a background on like events and stuff. So I've run like club nights. A random fact is I did like professional breakdancing for like 10 years as well. So I ran events for that. So like the love for wrestling, my kind of martial arts background, the events background, some of the theater stuff I've done, it was like putting everything that I love and have done before into one big thing. And also going and seeing local shows, I was just inspired to be like, I want to give another platform to the wrestlers in the UK and try and kind of help push them to the next level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I was looking obviously at the YouTube channel. I mean, you talk about it in the intro a little bit. Give a little insight, obviously, how all the street brawl things obviously happen. Do you know what I mean? Because like I said, it's unique, it's something different, and it's really, you're invested in me as a fan.
Oh, thank you. It's that's a kind of funny one as well, because it never was actually planned that was something we were going to do. So for some reason, Leeds venues don't particularly like pro wrestling. So we must have spoke to like 15 venues, or tried to speak to about 15 venues. It was either shut the door on us, didn't reply to us. It was something they wouldn't facilitate or they wouldn't host at their venue. And it kind of got to the point where we're like, what we're going to do. And then we finally found the Carriage Works, which is where we have all our events for the year. That's where it's going to be. But they didn't have anything available till May. So the mindset was kind of like, okay, we've got 5 months before a show. We can't kind of keep posting the same match announcements, the same poster for 5 months and kind of trying to sell it off that. So we're like, we need something that we can put out there that isn't going to cost what a full show is going to cost, but it's also something that fans can kind of keep up to date with. It can help us build the storylines between certain wrestlers. And it was just, we had heard it had been done, like people had attempted to kind of do similar stuff. But the biggest influence for it came from, obviously, as I said, with the Attitude Era, when you used to have the hardcore titles 24/7, and matches like, you know, The Rock and Mankind's Empty Arena, Triple H and Mankind in the Boiler Room, and it was all that kind of stuff. And it was like, well, let's do something like that, see how that works. And it just so happened that we already had the perfect venue for it. We just had never looked at it that way. So once we kind of put it all together, we're like, this might be something that is different from what other people are doing, and it'll still keep fans engaged in between when the main shows are.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first match, like I said, is B.A. Rose and Keg Stacker. What do you remember, obviously, about shooting that match?
It was insane. So like a lot of the extras in that are actually just people that train at the gym. So the majority of them had never seen like pro wrestling or live pro wrestling. So that was their first like witness to what pro wrestling's like. And you could almost feel it out there. The energy was just insane. Like the two of them were just going 100% at everything. And you could feel everybody just being like, holy shit, these two dudes are killing each other. But there was just such a buzz about it. And it was almost like when we wrapped filming and stuff, it was kind of like, we might have something here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned also before we came on the show is I've got Keg Stacker's comments obviously about that, and he said the following. Yeah. He says it was a unique match for me. Can't wait to see more brawls in the arena and take part in a few more. The crowd was small, but great getting to work with BA. He's been on my list for a while. He's a dream to work with and set up a match. I think Ryan and the crew are onto something special, going for the old school hardcore style you don't really see nowadays. And that's from Keg himself.
Oh, awesome. That was great to hear. He was brilliant to work with as well.
Yeah, he definitely was. So we've got a couple of questions in. So Drew Ashling says, what made you decide to create a wrestling facility? Also super excited to come to a session soon.
Oh, sick. That's awesome to hear. So the training facility pretty much came from, so it's like a personal thing for me as well. And it was like, had somebody told me 10 years ago, like there's places you can go train and actually do this, I probably never would have like went into fighting. So like I'm an ex-professional fighter and I had like a long-term injury. And on my last fight a couple of years ago, it was kind of one of those decisions where I'm going to need a hell of a lot of time off or surgery on my knee and blah, blah, blah. Or it was like, I can keep fighting and potentially could end up not being able to walk because if I took a bad shot or something like that. So that's kind of why I stopped fighting. And it was like when I kind of started going to the local wrestling scene and seeing more shows and stuff, having a gymnastics background and stuff, I was just like, I can't believe nobody told me about this when I was younger or like showed me this world, because I would have ate it up. So like now I'm 34, I've started training as well because I feel like as a promoter, I want to put myself through the training as well. I want to learn some stuff and kind of, so I'm a bit more on a level with the wrestlers where the communication's easier as well. So like, it's not just me coming from a promoter standpoint. I know a little bit like what it's like for the wrestlers to go through some of the training and stuff they go through. So it's just easier to kind of communicate and work on stuff. And I'd spoke to a couple of people and there wasn't really anything locally. And then obviously with the facilities we had at Full Force, we were like, we've got such a good space here. So the main thing was just trying to give more wrestlers like the facilities to kind of learn and progress and be better as well. So we've got a massive mat space, we've got a training ring, we've got a strength and conditioning room, we've got ways for guys to shoot promos, we can do video and editing, and we're kind of looking at mixing up the classes and just giving everybody the best training we possibly can that's available for them.
And I think the best thing about what you mentioned there is you basically dabbled in absolutely everything, so you could probably help out absolutely anywhere.
Yeah, so like I always put my hands up as well and say, because because I know some people probably look at it and go, this guy isn't a pro wrestler, what's he doing up in the school? So for the record, I don't teach the pro wrestling classes. We've got guys who teach that. Like we had BA Rose in on Monday doing the intermediate advanced session. It was absolute awesome session. Like all the boys that came along, they felt like they really got some knowledge and really learned something and went away with, being able to take their stuff to the next level. We're looking at bringing different coaches in, different guests in. But my kind of background comes from, I was like a gymnast when I was a kid and trained with the Scottish gymnastics squad. I've got like a dance background as well. So like movement and controlling your body and all that stuff, which is what a lot of wrestlers have to work on. Theatre background as well, kind of dives into the character development aspect of it. And then having combat sports for nearly like 3 decades, there's so many moves that we can adapt from that we can incorporate into wrestlers' arsenal as well.
Awesome. How did the name all come about? NCW, is that just something which you just come off the cuff, or did you have to like build it up?
Oh Jesus, everything was taken. See, everything you come up with, like, that's a good name, and then you start searching, you're like, shit, there's 12 of them. So it was just trying to find something. It was like, one of the things for me is we're kind of staying in Leeds, so all our shows are going to be in Leeds. And then it was the case of like, well, we're in the north, so we can be the Northern Championship Wrestling. That's kind of just how it came about.
Okay. So one thing obviously really got me invested as well with this was this roster you've assembled. Now, the first person which caught my eye straight away was Bobby Cash. I mean, a phenomenal job ring announcer. How did it all come about for him?
So initially for me, obviously I did the intro for the Keg and BA match, and then I also had to ref, and then we had to do all the setup and stuff. So it was like, it was getting to the point for me, it was like, I kind of wanted to take a step back because I like being involved, but I'm also not somebody that's like, me, I want to do everything. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. There's too much going on behind the scenes to be doing that. So it was like, I'd seen Bobby at a couple of shows as well. I'd heard a lot of good things from the guys in the scene as well. And we kind of reached out to each other almost, and it was like, yeah, we could kind of make something work. So we brought him down to do essentially like the post and pre-match interviews that we started doing with the Street Brawls. He's going to be doing some of them as well at the shows. And then he's just been announced as the official ring announcer. So really looking forward to working with him. We've worked with him obviously with the Tim and Alton match, and he was absolutely brilliant for that.
He's great talent, great guy and stuff like that. As well, I mean, this is just a little snippet, but look at that roster. Do you know what I mean? Rob Drake, Hack and Slash, Shreddy, like Sebastian Mercer. Do you know what I mean? That is an incredible roster, man. You've got to be proud building that.
Oh, yeah. Like one of the things that kind of goes into it, speaking to someone that's actually about it the other day, and we're trying to almost kind of like, the way I look at some of the wrestlers is we're trying to kind of bring back that old school attitude era of wrestling. So I kind of look at obviously the wrestling ability, but also the personality and the characters. So if you kind of look at the roster, there's not really somebody in there that's like the same as somebody else or similar gimmicks, or, they're just very kind of bland. It's like everybody has who they are, what they're doing, and it's like the way we look for that in terms of rosters, like almost trying to compare them to like, well, who is this person to us? So like an example that I use is almost like, Monstrum is like our Kane, BA Rose is like our Mick Foley. So it's like kind of like trying to have a nod to that era without kind of going, copy my homework, but just don't make it the same. So trying to avoid that, but taking the inspiration from it. And I think that shows in the roster that we've got such amazing talent on there that almost any match you put together could be just action-packed.
Even the women's side, like I said, I mean, Melissa Fierce is obviously a great talent. Moxie Malone, I'm a big fan of. Do you know what I mean? There's also the women's side, which is incredible.
Yeah, they were almost the first one that got put together, just because the likes of like Anita, Sapphire, Rio, they've just been absolutely smashing it. So it was like people who immediately caught our eye when we started it up. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people who didn't respond to us, which we understand being a new promotion. Some people want to see how things go. But there are a few people who have been announced for Eruption that are just awesome, but they haven't actually had the official roster announcement yet. So we've still got more roster announcements to make. but yeah, we're really excited with the talent that we've got for this year to work with, and I think it's just going to be next level.
Yeah, absolutely. What's some obviously the biggest challenges you have to face being a new promotion? Is it like trying to get like people involved as well?
Yeah, I think it's just trying to get. I think it's the same as like most promotions have, is just trying to get yourself in front of the right eyes. Like for me, one of the things that really opened my eyes was when I went to WWE at Sheffield recently, and I was like, oh, geez, the fans are here. Why are they not all going to local shows? So it was like, what is it that's not making the people who are willing to spend like £200-300 on tickets for WWE? Why are they not spending 30, 40, 25 quid to go to the local shows? So one of the things we were kind of looking at doing was, can we kind of be that promotion that's kind of in the middle? So I think what's tricky for us, one, starting out as a new promotion, is we've not kind of started small and then tried to build up. We're kind of trying to jump to that middle ground where we're going to give that, high level production, roster, venue, the whole kind of shebang that goes together to make that event something that people go away and go, geez, that was a fraction of the price of WWE, but it was just as good, because the UK has that kind of talent. It's just getting the wrestling fans to see them.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with what you say there and stuff like that. So you talked about a little about the UK scene. What have you learned about the UK scene from your point of view?
So one of the things that, and especially that I kind of noticed, is there's so much talent out there. And that's one of the things I feel like we struggle a little bit as well, is because the talent pool is so big, you do see like everybody everywhere. So like one of the things we're trying to do is like not put matches together other than Tim and Alton, which was like a feud that had been brewing. We're trying not to kind of be like, oh, well, we'll just put this match together, even though that was on Progress, but then was on Rev Pro over here, and then this person's already faced that person. So like, if you look at Anarchy, I think we've got 6 or 7 out of the 8 matches where they've never faced each other before. So like, yeah, so it's the first time BA and Liu King Sharper against each other. First time Melissa and Moxie faced each other. First time the guys in the triple threat. First time Monstroms faced Thomas Blood. I know Iceman, Jack, Franco, and Brad have all been in the same event, but I don't think they've ever had a 2-on-2 against each other. And Jack and Isaac have never had a match before. So I feel like we've done pretty well in terms of putting fresh matches together.
100%. And one thing I like about that card as well, you've got, like I said, you've got a ladder match, you've got a variety, obviously, of match stipulations as well.
Yeah. So it was like, one of the things is like, you obviously you don't want to pay money and go to a show and everything's the exact same. So it's like, we want to try and kind of, because I think a lot of people think we were trying to kind of keep with that Anarchy theme. Like, I feel like every match in there could be a barn burner. Like some of this stuff that's been flying around backstage and stuff, it's going to be crazy. So we've got the ladder match, we've got the table match, the 2-on-2 hardcore match. B is defending his hardcore title, and then I think we've got 3 or 4 matches in between, and we're still working on a matchup for the vacant British title at the moment, which we're hoping to confirm by next week to announce as well.
Absolutely. So before we came on the air, I saw the issue obviously with Tim Strange. What obviously can you speak about
that? So all that we know was Tim was unfortunately attacked by a group of people. At the moment, we're trying to get some witnesses or some evidence, as Hellbound are basically refuting it was them. However, if you look at Alton's statement, there's a few underlying tones. The way in which some things are said, although he's happy with it, it is hard for us to prove that it was Hellbound. So we're going to take myself and Jess, who's one of our general managers that helps out. We're kind of thinking of plans this weekend. What's what? He has a point.
Hello, mate. You all right?
Yeah, is the sound and everything okay? Because I know my mic's crap on my phone.
No, you can hear you fine. Yeah, so we were talking about, obviously, the situation with Tim Strange.
Yes. So we're kind of looking at this weekend, basically trying to figure out what we're going to do. I will say we probably are likely, if we're unable to find kind of any evidence or witnesses, we probably are likely to allow Alton on the show. And we have a couple of potential backups in mind. But yeah, we'll be able to announce a bit more next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I know we know Tim Strange. He's not going to let that slip at all, is it?
No, I mean, it definitely seems as if Alton wasn't happy about how the Street Brawl finished, and that was most likely the motive behind what's happened. So I don't think that's the end of that, and I definitely think there's likely to be some payback at some point.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one thing we've not talked about is obviously the venue. Now the Carriage Works, I've not actually seen the venue. How did that all come about? Obviously working there.
So weirdly enough, I actually performed in that theatre years ago, and it was when we basically did a kind of search of venues that we thought were going to be good, kind of what we were looking for. And as I said, one of the things that is big for us is like the old school WWF, the kind of WCW, ECW stuff. Like we have a big influence from that. And if you remember, like years back, Raw used to be in a theatre venue, and it's such a cool look. So that was kind of something that we were looking to go with. A lot of the venues we kind of spoke to, as I said, they either weren't keen on it, they had wrestling on before, and they said they had a bad experience, which is a shame. But then I remember performing there years ago, and I was like, that would be such a cool venue if we could nail it down. I honestly thought it probably wouldn't be something they would have there. They do a lot of pantos, a lot of like traveling theatre and stuff. It's a fantastic venue. And it just so happened to be that one of the directors there, when I went to meet her, she was at WWE Sheffield with her kids as well. So it was like somebody who actually understood what it was we were trying to do. So they kind of almost welcomed us with open arms. But just being able to have it in there is so cool, because once some of the wrestlers saw where they were going to be wrestling, a couple of them immediately were like, that reminds me of Raw from like the 90s. And I was like, yes, that's what we're trying to do. Just giving it that vibe. It's awesome as well. So it's got like 3 floors, all tiered seating as well. So regardless of where you sit, you're going to have an awesome view. Nobody's head's in front of you. You're not going to have videographers and cameramen running around the front of the ring in your way. So you're going to be able to see everything that happens.
That's absolutely incredible. I can't wait for that. So what's the scene like, obviously, in Leeds with the wrestling scene? Because I've never actually spoken to somebody from Leeds.
Oh, okay. So I'll be honest, like I was before we kind of got into all of this and I started going to local shows at the back end of like last year, I was kind of almost oblivious to the local scene. And I'm so glad I found it now, because like we're trying to find shows almost every weekend to go to. Because I feel it's really important to support the scene. Especially whether or not you're a promoter or a wrestler or just a fan. Just being able to support and go to the shows just makes a massive difference. And it also it allows us to kind of see, different talent that's out there, getting to see different shows. But the scene is thriving, to be fair, from the looks of it. There's shows everywhere, but Leeds is like a little hotbed, I think, for some really good talent. And I think that's one of the reasons why we opened Madhouse as well. We know there's a lot of guys here that train. That wrestle, so it's like giving them a local facility to go get the work in as well. But yeah, Leeds has got an awesome scene. There's a good couple of promotions here as well already putting shows on, and we're just looking again, as I said, to just give the guys another platform.
100%. And one thing I've noticed as well with the UK scene over as a whole is death matches are on the rise. I'm seeing a lot more coming than I used to. I mean, that's great to see. It's something different.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things we kind of tried to make clear at the start when we announced is, I think because we did the Street Brawl stuff, I think a lot of people thought we were maybe a deathmatch promotion. And I've said to a lot of people, like, deathmatch isn't our thing. Like, massive respect for the guys that do it. But there's already so many good promotions that absolutely nail that stuff. So it's something we've gone, we're going to leave that to the guys that do that so well. we want to kind of go with the old school hardcore kind of route. But I think as well, like after this event, being able to show kind of what the shows are like as well, because I know a lot of people, you kind of see the street brawl stuff and you might think, well, that's all that's going to be there. But no, it's definitely ace to see the deathmatch stuff picking up. It's absolutely crazy, to be fair, like some of the stuff the guys go through.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy, especially with somebody like Iceman as well, who's obviously on the card.
Oh yeah, I feel like that match is going to be mental, because it's not a tag match, so you're gonna have to use a bit of teamwork. So it's 2-on-2, falls count anywhere, no disqualification, and I feel like, give me 2 seconds, I'll actually double check who's reffing that match. Where is it? Oh, so yeah, Katie. She doesn't know that yet, but if she watches this, she'll find out. Katie's actually reffing that match, so I feel like she's going to be run off her feet a little bit in that one.
Is it, if I remember rightly, is it Katie, Scott, and there's another, and James Green was the refs?
Yep, so that's for the main events. After this, for Anarchy, we've got Katie and Sandy Beaches.
I am actually friends with Katie. I might send her this just to say, let her know.
It's one thing that's on the list is to inform the rest of this week of who they're actually refereeing, but I just thought, well, I'll just tell you there, may as well.
There you go. So, Kate, if you're listening, you got a death match-ish. Dear. So, for people obviously listening, obviously who's not familiar with obviously NCW, what can fans obviously expect coming to your shows?
So, one, you'll get your money's worth. You know, I know some people can kind of look like there's a variety of shows out there, and I think one of the hardest things for the promotions to get across, especially new, when we've not really got anything but the street brawls, is obviously people can look at ticket prices. There's shows out there for £5. There's shows out there for £10, 20, 30, 40. And obviously as the price increases, the show should, not always, but it should be bigger. It should be better. The matches that get put on should be that next level. So that is the goal with the NCW shows is, you know, as we try and use as our catchphrases, anarchy at its finest. So it's I like to think that when you look at the cards on our shows, there's not a single match that you'd want to miss taking a piss.
Yeah, as they always said, the bathroom break match.
Yeah, so the goal is to have that one where you go, you know what, I'll hold it until the finish, or I'll hold it to the break because I don't want to miss what's happening. And one of the things, like I was talking to somebody about this the other day, was it's such a shame that there is so much good talent, but they're just not being seen because of some, pardon my French, shitty algorithm, or, you know, like I look at, yeah, so I look at Alton Thorne's promos and go, that thing should have like 500 likes. Like the man does one take wonders like that. And, you know, you look at Looking Sharp and his promos that he did for us. And, you know, you look at B.A. Rose's finisher against Kegstacker and you're like, that stuff deserves more recognition. That stuff deserves more views. They deserve to be in front of more people's eyes. And I think that's the goal with NCW, is to just give the fans something that they can go home and go, that was one money worth spent. And that was a hell of a good night. And they go away and they have those little core memories from matches of, oh, do you remember when such and such did this? And, oh, that was amazing to see that happen. And it was like, that's what we want to do, is create memories for fans.
Absolutely. How important would you say social media is then for wrestling?
What's that, sorry?
How important would you say social media is for wrestling?
Oh, massive. I think a lot of people, this might be a tip. Some promote, obviously you could get 10 promoters or 10 guys that run companies and we'll all have different ways that look at it. But I look at social media is quite an important thing for a wrestler, purely because I mirror it to that of a professional fighter. So I coach fighters and I work with professional fighters as well. And it's one of them where we've had incidents where guys don't understand that in today's age, your social media is essentially your resume. So before I even speak to you, the first thing I see is your profile and what you post. So it's like if you have no presence, you're going to struggle to, one, get seen and get booked. If your social media is a bit of a wish-wash of not really kind of this. It's like my personal life and my pro wrestling life. You know, if you're not consistently posting, you're not consistently building your fan base, you're going to be less likely to get booked. You know, how many people follow you and interact with you that when you share posters or share your promos are actually going to interact or reshare it for you? You know, I think it's unfortunately we are in an age where talent alone doesn't do it. And you do see instances where you have wrestlers that maybe aren't so talented, but their social media game and how they put themselves across blows other people out the water. And then you have the good guys sitting there with no social media game going, why is that person getting 5 bookings? Why am I not getting booked on that show? You know, it is one of those things. I've had that conversation with so many fighters as well, where they're just like, yeah, but I don't want to do social media. And it's like, well, no one's going to take notice of you because you just kind of fall in amongst all the other people when there's so many people out there that want the same jobs, the same bookings, the same goals. You've got to be able to stand out. And I think social media is one of those things that can make you stand out. But then again, it's finding a way of doing it right and making it work for your character, because you can kind of sometimes see where people are doing things that, you know, you've done that just to try and get a bit of views, but it's not quite what your character would do, or it doesn't really make sense. So it's like a minefield, I think, for a lot of guys.
It's like building a brand as well, which a lot of people say.
Yeah, 100%. Like one of the things for us was, well, especially when we don't have anything, we need like at least our graphics that we put out to try and be eye catching. And I think that was something that somebody said in like the first like month of NCW, where they were like, we love how active you are on social media and how much content you're putting out, because it is one of those things where, you know, if you post, oh, I've got a show in 2 months, and then your next post is, oh, I've got a show in 3 weeks, there's nothing between to keep fans engaged or keep people interested in what it is you're doing.
100%, 100%. So you've been in wrestling for as long as you have. What's the biggest thing you've learned as a whole?
I think what I've found in wrestling, from having started recently training, having loved wrestling as a kid and growing up, and then getting to know more wrestlers, I think there's a lot of opinion and preference in wrestling. You know, I think different people have different ways of working, different people have different ways they like to do things, and I think it's just working together. I think if you can find that ground, because I've always said to guys, like, I'm not somebody who is like, absolutely not, we're not doing that, or nothing's open for discussion, or here's your match brief and this is it, don't do anything else. It's very much an open kind of two-way communication. Like, I want them to be as happy as they possibly can to then do the work. You know, it's giving them freedom to create, but also giving them a brief of kind of where we're going to go, and just being able to work together and communicate. It's like I said, I think that's what's massively helped me getting into training wrestling, is being able to communicate with wrestlers better and understand what it is that we're trying to do and build.
100%. So tickets are still on sale for the 21st of February show, if I remember rightly.
Yes, sir, on Eventbrite.
So if fans want to check that out, like I said, link in the descriptions, obviously, for the Instagram. That'll take to, obviously, the NCW Instagram. All links are there. Go support the show and stuff like that. So for a little more questions, obviously, as we begin to wind down. Ryan, obviously, it's a new promotion and stuff like that. So what's the goal? Obviously, what's short-term, long-term?
So short time is just to continue to build, keep doing what we're doing, gain a bit of traction for it, and just start building a fan base essentially for NCW. Long term, you know, again, I've said this on a couple of shows where it's like I've said, you know, Progress started somewhere, Rev Pro started somewhere. You know, it's not so crazy to be like, well, who's to say in the next 2-3 years we're not one of the top shows in the UK? You know, I look at this in terms of almost like one of the professional fighters that I coach. I don't know if you've heard of Cage Warriors before.
I have, yes.
Maybe so. It's almost like the feeder company for UFC. So like Conor McGregor, Paddy Pimblett, Meatball Molly, they all came from Cage Warriors, went up to UFC. I coach a professional fighter who fights on Cage Warriors, and his goal is to go to the UFC. So like being around those events of that scale, it was like, well, the fans are there. So why can't we do this with NCW? I'm not saying that, you know, we're going to be a feeder for like WWE, but being able to put on like a platform and a production that helps British talent get recognized more. You know, maybe somebody saw them on an NCW show and they've been given a contract with another company. They've been able to get more bookings in Europe. It's given them that stepping stone to kind of take what they're doing to the next level.
100%, 100%. Like I said, my goal this year is obviously to come to one of the shows, but like I said, our podcast obviously is so busy this year and stuff like that, but I'm aiming to get to a show. I can't wait. And like I said, the one thing that really invested me was that roster. It's an incredible roster, some incredible talent, and you've even said it, there's more to be added to it.
More to come, more to come.
100%, 100%. Oh, I don't know, hang on, has my audio gone?
Oh, no, you're still there.
I thought my audio went for some reason then.
No, I can still hear you, bud.
Oh dear. Ryan, hopefully, mate, you've had an absolute blast. I know we had the technical issues, but I can edit that out. That's not a problem.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. So one thing I like my guests to do is they get to do the outro for the show. So you can say anything you want, you can promote anything you want, and I will roll the outro.
Okay. So he's been Liam. I've been Ryan. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you check out NCW and make sure you check out a show because you will not regret it.